Happy Sunday, everyone. Today is Sunday, March 3rd, 2024. And before I say anything else, I want to wish my oldest sister, Sandra, a happy 80th birthday. I reached my milestone in December. And ever since then, I've been just thinking about life. And I'm sure she has plenty of wisdom to share, but that's her story to tell. Mine is when I learn something, when something dawns on me that may be beneficial to someone else, I always share it. I was thinking about how I grew up in the church. And every Sunday, because I grew up Methodist, every Sunday we used to recite the Apostles' Creed. And I knew it by heart. Now I have to think about it because it's been so long since I said it, because I have a tendency that when I often repeat something, I wonder to myself, and sometimes out loud like I did today, why am I saying this? What does this truly mean? And does it enhance my relationship with the Lord? No, it did not, because even though I would repeat that every Sunday growing up, as soon as service was over, I'd go back to being me. But today, as I was reflecting, as I was combing my hair, I began to wonder, what are the consequences for the words we speak? Are we accountable for what we speak? I believe we are. I've known several instances in my life where I arbitrarily said something and seen it come to pass. And for example, I remember visiting the area that I now live in, and I had this thing about model homes. Whenever I was in an area, if they had a model home, I would want to go in and just see what it looked like. At the time, I didn't have no money for no house. I wasn't thinking about a house. Honestly, at that time, I was honestly thinking about how I'm gonna pay for some groceries. Keep the first things first. But I distinctly remember this area that I'm now living in. The time was like 1996, and I was visiting my niece who had moved to this area. And of course, me being me, I like going in to model anything. I visited the model home in her area. I never felt the urge to say anything, just that, oh, it's so beautiful in here. And then I remember coming here to where I am now. I was still in school. I think I might have been first semester junior, because I had gone back to school after I did, after my divorce and military service. I went back and completed my education, because that's the one thing I promised my mom and dad that I would do. If they would sign for me to go into the Army because I was underage, that I would graduate from college, and I did. My dad wasn't able to attend because he was too sick, but as soon as it was over, and back then you actually got your diploma. I showed it, and I didn't even put my legal last name on my diploma. I put my maiden name on my diploma so my dad could see that I kept my promise. Anyway, getting back to here, and I remember going into the model, because they had 3 models, different sizes. I said, you know what? I'm going to live here one day. And I just arbitrarily said it. Well, I thought I arbitrarily said it. Then I remember like 3 years later, moving into this area of where I live in the suburbs of Washington, D.C. And at the time, I wasn't thinking about buying a house. I wasn't thinking about buying nothing. I was honestly trying to make enough money to pay off debt from being married. And, just to clear everything up so I could have a fresh start. Because if I had followed my gut, honestly, to be honest and transparent, if I would have followed my gut, my intuition, my start over would have been much easier. But when you ignore the prompting of the Holy Spirit, it's a penalty. But thank God he loves me enough to allow me, even though there was a delay, it still happened for me. Anyway, I said, I'm moving in. I'm going to live here one day, arbitrarily. Didn't have the money, whatever. I tried to stay in my hometown. Didn't work. I tried different counties, close by, because my parents were older. My dad was sick. My mom was still in relatively good health, but because I had been away from home well over 10 years, I just wanted, you can never recapture time. Once it passes, that's what it is. Anyway, I was fortunate enough to be able to stay there for, I think, 4 years. And, when bill collectors are calling you, people say, well, we're going to pray about it, whatever. I personally believe that whatever God gives you the ability to do, that's not something you have to pray about. You have to act on it. You have to act on it. Anyway, so I move into the area. I get an apartment. And then a tragedy happened in front of where I live now. I'm not going to pretend to be brave, because I'm not. And I firmly believe that bullets don't have a name. And I didn't personally witness it. I heard it. And when I looked out my window, I said, why isn't that young man moving? It was almost like I was in shock. He wasn't moving because he was no longer breathing. And his heart was no longer beating. And that was my cue. Get out of here. I left that same night. I had to continue staying there because the very next day I went to a realtor trying to find somewhere else to live. And where I'd gone to first, the lady said, the building here, the construction here, the project here is already done. However, we do have openings up in the neighborhood where I am now. She said, you should give it a try. Well, she ran my credit or whatever, and I was good to go. And that's how I ended up where I am now. But I had spoken into existence, 6 years prior, because come March the 15th, I will have been in my home. I would have been a homeowner for 22 years by myself. Nobody co-signing nothing. I didn't have to lie on no applications or anything. It's like I said I was going to do something. I said I was going to have something. I said I was going to be somewhere, and I'm here. I haven't made any other. That taught me not to watch what I say. And that's one of the reasons why I don't go live. Now, I used to do Facebook Live, but that's because I wanted to act silly. But for some reason, I can't do that here. So when something comes across my mind, I'll do what I'm doing now. And sometimes you'll hear me stumble over words, but whatever, that happens. So anyway, back to what I believe. There was one particular part of the Apostles' Creed that said he suffered under Pontius Pilate. Pontius Pilate was a real person. And yes, the Lord did suffer under him. But I always wondered why. And it was all about a position. There were some people that knew the characteristics, because they stayed in the synagogue all day. They believed everything, but when it affects you personally, how will you act on it? Say you're in a high position, but something happens that will affect that. Will you do the right thing? See, I'm like this. I qualified for a whole lot of jobs, but then I thought, physically, I wouldn't be able to do this. And me accepting this job will actually take away from someone who could perform it physically. I mean, they might not have had the scores that I had or whatever. Some people are good test takers. Doesn't mean they're qualified for the job. So anyway, you have people that can, even people today, they can quote all kinds of scriptures or whatever, but they don't know how to apply it. Because if applying that scripture will cause you to get out of your comfort zone, or you have to change your ways. Some people will make waivers, everything else, so they don't have to do the right thing. Thank God I learned how to set pride aside. I can step out of the way and let you be great. Because whatever's for you, it will happen for you. And you don't have to destroy, tear down, or step on anybody else to get to what God has for you. But my observations, it's just like they find one fault in a person. Now, you're all doing the same thing. You're all doing the same thing, whether you're a content creator, whether you have a regular job, you're all doing the same thing. But because some people want to advance, they do those pile-on things. And I thank God for wisdom. I like several people. It might sound like I'm all over the place, but I have a reason for what I'm saying. Let this serve as a warning. Hone your craft. Work on your craft. Be the best you can be. And when it's time for elevation, you won't be forgotten, because if it's for you, it's going to happen. But if you have to pile on and team up to continue negativity and things you really can't prove, then don't be shocked when your time comes, because it will come. And how many people will you have in your corner? The same people that you team up with to tear down somebody else. They'll be the first ones to put all your business in the street. And it might be worse, because you might not actually have people praying for you. So anyway, what I truly believe that what goes around comes back around. That's why you can call me whatever. You can think I'm nervous. You can think I'm scared. You can think I'm timid. Whatever you think about me never has defined me. And I sit back and I watch and I listen. If I'm prompted to say something, I will, using this mechanism right here. And even if 2 people only see this, they'll tell somebody. And then that person will tell somebody else. And before you know it, a whole lot of people know the truth. A whole lot of people they're looking for direction. And if what I'm saying sounds like a parable, then what I'm saying is not meant for you. Just like when Jesus spoke in a crowd, he used parables. But those that followed him closely, his disciples, knew exactly what he meant. And there were probably some people in the crowd that got what he meant, because that message at the time was for them. So watch how you live. More importantly, watch what you say, because, honey, your words can determine your future, whether they be positive or negative. And learn how to be quick to listen and slow to speak. Enjoy your Sunday, March 3rd. God bless you.